Stories of the Buddha's Former Births. Book 19 Sathanipada. 529. Sonaka Jataka. 1,000 crowns, etc. This is a story told by the Master, while dwelling at Jetavana, concerning the perfection of renunciation. On this occasion the Bodhisattva sitting in the hall of truth in the midst of the brethren, as they were singing the praises of the perfection of renunciation, said, "Brethren, not now only, but of old also the Tathagata verily left the world and made the great renunciation." And so saying he related a story of the past. Once upon a time, the Magadha king reigned in Rajagaha. The Bodhisattva was born to his chief queen, and on his naming day they called him Prince Arindama. On the very day of his birth a son was also born to the royal chaplain, and to him they gave the name of young Soṇaka. The two lads grew up together, and when they were of age they were exceedingly handsome, in appearance not to be distinguished one from another, and they went to Takasila, and, after being trained in all sciences, they left that place with the intention of learning the practical uses of arts and local observances, and gradually in the course of their wanderings found their way to Benares. There they took up their abode in the royal park, and next day entered the city. That very day certain men being minded to make an offering of food to Brahmins provided some rice porridge and arranged seats. And on seeing these youths approach they brought them into the house and made them sit upon the seats they had prepared. On the seat allotted to the Bodhisattva a white cloth was spread, on that assigned to Soṇaka a red woolen rug. On seeing this omen Soṇaka at once understood that this day his dear friend Arindama would become king in Benares, and that he would offer him the post of commander-in-chief. After they had finished their meal they returned together to the park. Now it was the 7th day since the king of Benares had died, and the royal house was without an heir. So the counselors and the rest, after washing themselves, head and all, assembled together and saying, "Thou art to go to the house of the man that is worthy to be king." They started the festal car. On leaving the city it gradually approached the park, and stopping at the park gate it stood there, ready for anyone to mount upon it. The Bodhisattva lay, with his outer robe wrapped about his head, on the royal slab of stone, while the lad Soṇaka sat near him. On hearing the sound of musical instruments Soṇaka thought, "Here comes the festal car for Arindama. Today he will be made king, and he will offer me the post of commander. But verily I have no desire for rule. When he is gone away, I will leave the world and become an ascetic." And he stood on one side in concealment. The chaplain on entering the park saw the great being lying there and ordered his trumpets to be sounded. The great being woke up, and after turning over and lying for a while, he rose up and sat cross-legged on the stone seat. Then the chaplain, spreading out his arms in a suppliant attitude, cried, "The kingdom, sire, comes to you. Why is there no heir to the throne?" "Even so, sire." "Then it is well," he said. So they sprinkled him to be king then and there, and mounting him on the car they brought him with a vast escort into the city. After a solemn procession round the city, he ascended to his palace, and in the greatness of his glory, he forgot all about young Soṇaka. But when the king was gone, Soṇaka returned and sat on the stone seat, and so it was that a withered leaf of a sal tree fell from its stalk in front of him, and on seeing it he cried, "Even as this leaf, so will my body fall into decay." And acquiring supernatural insight by reflecting on the impermanence of all things he attained to the state of Apaksabhuddha, and at this very instant his characteristic as a layman vanished, and the marks of an ascetic became visible, and saying, "There is no more rebirth for me," in the utterance of this aspiration he set out for the cave of Nandamula. And the great being after the lapse of 40 years remembered Soṇaka and said, "Where in the world can Soṇaka be?" And time after time calling him to mind, he found no one to tell him, saying, "I have heard of him," or "I have seen him." And sitting cross-legged on a royal throne upon a magnificent dais, surrounded by a company of minstrels and mime dancers, in the enjoyment of his glory, he said, "Whosoever shall hear from someone that Soṇaka dwells in such and such a place and shall repeat it to me, to him I promise 100 pieces of money. But whosoever shall see him with his own eyes and shall tell me, to him I promise 1,000 pieces of money." And giving expression to this inspired utterance, in the form of a song, he repeated the first stanza, "1,000 crowns for one that sees my friend and playmate dear. 100 lo, I give if one of Soṇaka should hear." Then a nautch girl, catching it up as it were from his very mouth, sang the words, and then another and another took it up till the whole harem, thinking it was a favorite air of the king's, all sang it. And gradually both townspeople and countryfolk sang the same song, and the king too constantly sang it. At the end of 50 years the king had many sons and daughters, and the eldest son was called Prince Dagavu. At this time the Paksabuddha Sonaka thought, King Arindama is anxious to see me. I will go and explain to him the misery of evil desires and the blessing of renunciation, and will show him the way to become an ascetic. And by his supernatural power he conveyed himself thither and took a seat in the park. At that moment a boy 7 years old, wearing his hair in 5 knots, was sent there by his mother, and as he was gathering sticks in the park garden, he sang over and over again this song. Sonaka called the boy to him and asked him, saying, Why, my lad? Do you always sing the same song and never sing anything else? Do you not know any other song? I know others, holy sir, but this is the king's favorite song, and so I constantly sing it. Has anyone been found to sing a refrain to this song? No, sir. I will teach you one, and then you can go and sing the refrain before the king. Yes, sir. So he taught him the refrain 1,000 crowns and the rest of it, and when the boy had mastered it, he sent him off, saying, Go, my lad, and sing this refrain before the king, and he will grant you great power. What have you to do with gathering sticks? Be off with you as quick as you can. It is well, said the boy, and having mastered the refrain and saluted Sonaka, he said, Holy sir, until I bring the king, do you remain here? With these words he went off as fast as he could to his mother and said to her, Dear mother, give me a bath and dress me in my best clothes. Today will I free you from your poverty. And when he had taken a bath and was smartly dressed, he went to the door of the palace and said, Porter, go and tell the king and say, A certain lad has come and even now stands at the door, prepared to sing a song with you. So the porter made haste and told the king. The king summoned him to his presence and said, Friend, would you sing a song with me? Yes, sire. Then sing it. My lord, I will not sing it here, but have a drum beaten through the city and bid the people assemble together. I will sing before the people. The king ordered this to be done, and, taking his seat in the middle of a couch under a magnificent pavilion and assigning a suitable seat to the boy, he said, Now then sing your song. Sire, he said, you sing first and then I will sing a refrain to it. Then the king sang first, repeating this stanza. 1,000 crowns for one that sees my friend and playmate dear. 100 lo, I give if one of Sonaka should hear. Then the master, to make it clear that the boy with his hair dressed in 5 knots sang a refrain to the song begun by the king, in his perfect wisdom repeated 2 lines. Then up and spake that little boy. 5 tangled locks he wore. The 1,000 give to me who saw, who heard 100 more. I'll tell thee news of Sonaka, thy playfellow of yore. The verses that follow are to be taken in their obvious connection. Pray, in what country, realm, or town hast thou a wandering been, and where was Sonaka, my friend, I prithee tell me, seen? Within this realm, in thine own park is many a big sal tree, with leaves dark green and stems so straight, a pleasant sight to see. Their branches densely interlaced, cloud-like, to heaven they rise, and at their foot lo, Sonaka in meditation lies, filled with the Arhat's holy calm, when human passion dies. The king then started in full force and leveling the road. He made his way straight to the place of Sonaka's abode. There wandering midst an ample grove within his pleasure ground, all passionless, in saintly bliss, his friend at rest he found. Without saluting him he sat on one side and, by reason of his being himself given up to evil passion, he fancied he was some poor wretch and addressed him in this stanza. His parents dead, with shaven head, clad in monk's robe I see, a wretched brother in a trance, stretched here beneath this tree. On hearing this said Sonaka, he is no wretched wight, who in his every action, sire, has I attained to right. Nay, rather wretched those who right neglect and practice ill, for evil doer evil doom is destined to fulfill. Thus did he rebuke the Bodhisattva, and he, pretending not to know he was being rebuked, talking in a friendly way with him, declared his name and family and spoke this stanza. As king of Kasi I am known, Arindama my name. Since coming here, sir, Hast thou met with aught deserving blame? Then the Paksabuddha said, Not merely while dwelling here but nowhere else have I met with any discomfort. And he began to tell in verse the blessings of the monk. Mongst blessings of poor homeless monk I ever counted one. In jar or mond or granary, he stores has hoarded none, but only craves what others leave and lives content thereon. The next of all his blessings, this is one deserving praise. He free from blame enjoys his food and no one him gainsays. Third blessing of the monk I hold is this, that all his days he eats his food in happiness and no one him gainsays. The fourth of all his blessings is that wheresoever he goes, he wanders free throughout the realm and no attachment knows. Fifth blessing this, that should the town, wherever he may be, perish in flames, he suffers not, for not to burn has he. The sixth of all the blessings he may reckon to his lot, that if the realm should be despoiled, he suffers not a jot. The seventh of the blessings that to poverty he owes, though robbers should his path beset, and many dangerous foes, with bowl and robe the holy man ever in safety goes. Last blessing this, that wheresoever our wanderer may fare, homeless and poor, he journeys on without regret or care. Thus did the Paksabuddha Sonaka tell of the 8 blessings of the monk, and even beyond this he could have told of 100, nay 1,000 immeasurable blessings. But the king, being given up to sensual desires, cut short his speech, saying, I have no need of monkish blessings. And to make it clear how devoted he was to evil passions, he said, Thy many blessings thou mayst praise, but what am I to do, who worldly pleasures, Sonaka, so greedily pursue? Dear are all human joys to me, and heavenly joys as well. But how to gain both worlds at once, to me I prithee tell. Then the Paksabuddha answered him, who greedily on pleasure bent their worldly lusts would sate, work wickedness a while, to be reborn in woeful state. But they who leave desire behind through life all fearless go, and reaching concentration pure are ne'er reborn to woe. Here tell I thee a parable. Arindama, give heed. Some that are wise through parable my meaning best may read. See, borne along on Ganges' flooded tide a carcass vast, a foolish crow thought to himself as it was floating past, Oh, what a carriage I have found and goodly store of food! Here will I stay both night and day, enjoying blissful mood. So eats he flesh of elephant and drinks from Ganges' stream, and budging not sees grove and shrine pass by him in a dream. Thus heedless and on carrion vile, so all intent was he, the Ganges swept him headlong to the perils of the sea. But when with food exhausted he, poor bird, essayed a flight, nor east nor west nor south nor north was any land in sight. Far out at sea, so weak was he, long ere he reached the shore, midst countless perils of the deep he fell to rise no more. For crocodiles and monster fish, where our poor flutterer lay, came ravening all around and quick devoured their quivering prey. So thou and all that greedily pleasures of sense pursue, are deemed as wise as was this crow, till ye all lusts eschew. My parable proclaims the truth. To it, O king, give heed. Thy fame for good or ill will grow according to thy deed. Thus by means of this parable did he admonish the king, and, in order to fix it firmly in his mind, he repeated this stanza. In pity once, nay even twice, utter the warning word, but keep not on repeating it, like slave before his lord. Thus in his wisdom infinite did Sonaka the seer instruct the king, and then in space straightway did disappear. This stanza was inspired by perfect wisdom, and the Bodhisattva stood gazing on him as he passed through the air, so long as he remained within the range of his vision. But when he had passed out of sight, he was greatly agitated and thought, This Brahmin, low-born fellow that he is, after scattering the dust from his feet upon my head, though I am sprung from an unbroken line of nobles, has disappeared in the sky. I must today renounce the world and become a religious. So, in his desire to join the religious and give up his kingdom, he repeated a couple of stanzas. Where are my charioteers? Dispatched a worthy king to find. I would not longer reign. Henceforth my crown I have resigned. Tomorrow one may die, who knows? I'll be ordained today, lest, like the foolish crow, I fall 'neath passion's baneful sway. On hearing him thus abdicate his throne, his counselors said, Thou hast a son, Dagavu named. A goodly prince is he, by sprinkling raise him to the throne, for he our king shall be. Then, beginning with the stanza spoken by the king, the verses in due order are to be understood in their obvious connection. Then quickly bring Dagavu here, a goodly prince is he, by sprinkling raise him to the throne, for he your king shall be. When they had brought Dagavu there, their nursing king to be, his sire addressed his darling boy, and only son was he. Full 60,000 villages I once did claim as mine. Take them, my son. To thee henceforth my kingdom I resign. Tomorrow one may die, who knows? I'll be ordained today, lest, like the foolish crow, I fall 'neath passion's baneful sway. Lo! 60,000 elephants with splendor all bedight, with girths of gold, caparisoned with trappings golden bright, each ridden by his own mahout, with spiked hook in hand. Take them, my son, I give them thee as ruler of the land. Tomorrow one may die, who knows? I'll be ordained today, lest, like the foolish crow, I fall 'neath passion's baneful sway. Lo! 60,000 horses here, bedecked in bright array. Sinned horses, all of noble breed and fleet of foot are they, each ridden by a henchman bold, with sword and bow in hand. Take them, my son, I give them thee as ruler of the land. Tomorrow one may die, who knows? I'll be ordained today, lest, like the foolish crow, I fall 'neath passion's baneful sway. Lo! 60,000 cars all yoked, with banners flying free, with tiger skin and panther hide, a gorgeous sight to see, each driven by mailed charioteers, all armed with bow in hand. Take them, my son, I give them thee as ruler of the land. Tomorrow one may die, who knows? I'll be ordained today, lest, like the foolish crow, I fall 'neath passion's baneful sway. Lo! 60,000 kine so red, with bulls on every hand. Take them, my son, I give them thee as ruler of the land. Tomorrow one may die, who knows? I'll be ordained today, lest, like the foolish crow, I fall 'neath passion's baneful sway. Here twice 8,000 maidens fair in goodly vesture stand, with many a jeweled bracelet decked and rings upon each hand. Take them, my son, I give them thee as ruler of the land. Tomorrow one may die, who knows? I'll be ordained today, lest, like the foolish crow, I fall 'neath passion's baneful sway. They say to me, thy mother dear, alas, poor boy, is dead. I cannot live without thee too. All joy from life is fled. As close behind old elephant a young one oft is found, moving through mountain pass or wood, o'er rough or level ground. So bowl in hand I'll follow thee, wherever thou mayst lead, nor shalt thou find me burdensome or difficult to feed. As oft some ship of merchants seeking gain at any cost, is swallowed by a whirlpool and both ship and crew are lost. So lest I find a stumbling block in this accursed boy, install him in my palace there all pleasures to enjoy, with maids whose hands caressing him with gleaming gold are bright, like Saka midst his nymphs divine, he'll ever take delight. Then brought they Prince Dagavu to the palace, home of joy, and seeing him these maidens fair addressed the royal boy. Who art thou? Angel, minstrel god, or Saka known to fame, dispensing alms in every town? We fain would learn thy name. No angel I, nor minstrel god, nor Saka known to fame, but heir to King of Kasi, Prince Dagavu is my name. So cherish me and happy be, each one as wife I claim. Then thus unto Dagavu, their liege lord, these maidens said, where has the king a refuge gained, and whither is he fled? The king escaped from miry ways is safe upon dry ground. From thorns and jungle free at last the high road he has found. But I am set upon a path that leads to woeful state. Through thorns and jungle on I press to reach an awful fate. Welcome to us, as lion is to cubs in mountain lair. Bear sway henceforth, our sovereign lord, the true and rightful heir. And having so spoken they all sounded their musical instruments and all manner of song and dance took place. And so great was his glory that the prince intoxicated by it forgot all about his father, but exercising his rule with justice he fared according to his deeds. But the Bodhisattva developed the supernatural faculty resulting from meditation and passed away to the Brahma world. The master here ended his lesson and said, "Not now only, brethren, but also of old the Tathagata verily made the great renunciation." And he identified the birth, saying, "At that time the Paksabuddha obtained nirvana, the sun was the young Rahula, and King Arindama was I myself." Stories of the Buddha's Former Births. Book 19 Sathanipita. 530. Samkicca Jataka. At sight of Brahmadatta, etc. This story the master, while dwelling in the mango grove of Jātaka, told concerning the murder of his own father by Ajatasattu. For owing to Devdatta and at his instigation he had his father put to death. But when sickness arose in the schismatic congregation following upon the division in the order, Devdatta resolved to go and ask pardon of the Tathagata, and, as he was journeying in a litter to Savatthi, he was swallowed up by the earth at the gate of Jetavana. On hearing this, Ajatasattu thought, because Devdatta was an enemy of the Supreme Buddha, he has disappeared into the earth and is destined to the Avici hell. It was owing to him that I murdered my holy father, that king of righteousness. I too shall surely be swallowed up by the earth. And he was so terrified that he found no enjoyment in his royal splendor, and thinking he would rest a while, he had no sooner fallen asleep than he seemed to be dropped into a world of iron 9 leagues thick, and beaten as it were with iron spikes and devoured by dogs continually snapping at him, and with a terrible cry he rose up. So one day at full moon during the Catermacia festival, when surrounded by a great retinue of courtiers he reflected on his own glory. He bethought him that his father's glory was far greater than this, and that owing to Devdatta he had slain so excellent a king of righteousness. And while he thought on this a fever sprang up in his limbs and his whole body was bathed in sweat. And considering who could drive away this fear from him, he concluded that except Sabala there was no one, and thinking, I have sinned greatly against the Tathagata, who verily will take me into his presence? And concluding there was no one but Jātaka, he considered some way of getting him to go with him, and uttering a joyous cry, "Oh sir, what a lovely clear night it is," he said, "what if today we were to pay our respects to some priest or Brahmin?" And when the virtues of Purana and other teachers had been sung by their respective disciples, without attending to what they said he cross-questioned Jātaka, and on his telling of the virtues of the Tathagata and crying, "Let His Majesty pay his respects to the Blessed One," he ordered elephant cars to be got ready and went to the mango grove of Jātaka. And approaching the Tathagata with an obeisance and being kindly greeted by him, he inquired of the reward of asceticism in this present life, and after listening to a sweet discourse on this topic from the Tathagata, at the end of the sermon he announced his discipleship, and having been reconciled to the Tathagata he went his ways. Thenceforth distributing alms and keeping the moral law he associated with the Tathagata, and listening to his sweet discourse on the law and consorting with a virtuous friend. His fears abated and his feeling of horror disappeared, and he recovered his peace of mind and happily cultivated the 4 ways of deportment. Then one day they started a discussion in the Hall of Truth, saying, "Sirs, Ajatasattu after slaying his father was terror-stricken, and finding no enjoyment in his regal splendor, he experienced pain in every posture. Then he went to the Tathagata and by associating with a virtuous friend, he lost his fears and enjoyed the happiness of lordship." The master came and asked, saying, "What topic, brethren, are you now engaged in discussing in conclave?" And on their telling him what it was, he said, "Not now only, but of old too, this man, after murdering his father, through me recovered his peace of mind." And he told a story of the past. Once upon a time in Benares Brahmadatta begot a son, Prince Brahmadatta. At the same time the Bodhisattva was conceived in the house of the family priest. And at his birth they named him young Samkicca. The 2 lads grew up together in the palace and were great friends. And when they came of age, after acquiring all learning at Takasila, they returned home. Then the king appointed his son to be viceroy, and the Bodhisattva still lived with him. Now one day the viceroy, when his father was gone to disport himself in the pleasure garden, beheld his great glory and conceived a longing for it, thinking, "My father is more like a brother. If I shall wait for his death, I shall be an old man before I succeed to the crown. What good will it do me to get the kingdom then? I will kill my father and make myself king." And he told the Bodhisattva what he thought of doing. The Bodhisattva rejected the idea, saying, "Friend, the murder of a father is a serious matter. That way lies the road to hell. You must not do this deed. Pray do not kill him." But he spoke of it again and was opposed by his friend for the third time. Then he consulted with his attendants, and they fell in with the idea and devised a plot to kill the king. But the Bodhisattva, hearing of it, thought, "I will not consort with people like these." And without taking leave of his father and mother, he escaped by a house door and hid himself in the Himalaya country. There he embraced the ascetic life and entered upon the supernatural powers arising from ecstatic meditation, living on roots and wild berries. But the prince, when his friend was gone away, put his father to death and enjoyed great glory. Hearing it said that young Samkicca had adopted the ascetic life, many youths of good family gave up the world and were ordained by him to the ascetic life. And he dwelt there surrounded by a great company of ascetics, all of whom had already reached the attainments. The king, after killing his father, for a very short time enjoyed the pleasure of kingship, and then was terror-stricken and lost his peace of mind and was like to one who had found his punishment in hell. Then calling to mind the Bodhisattva, he thought, "My friend tried to stop me, saying the murder of one's father was a grievous thing, but failing to persuade me, he ran away to keep himself free from guilt. If he had been here, he would not have let me slay my father, and he would free me from this terror. Where in the world can he be living? If I knew where he was dwelling, I would send for him. Who can tell me his place of abode?" Thenceforth, both in the harem and in the court, he was ever singing the praises of the Bodhisattva. A long time afterwards, when he had lived 50 years in the Himalayas, the Bodhisattva thought, "The king remembers me. I must go to him and teach him the law and remove his fears." So, attended by 500 ascetics, he passed through the air and alighted in the garden called Vyapassa, and surrounded by his band of ascetics, he seated himself on the stone slab. The keeper of the garden, on seeing him, asked, saying, "Holy sir, who is the leader of this company of ascetics?" And hearing it was the sage Samkicca, and himself recognizing him, he said, "Sir, stay here until I bring the king. He is anxious to see you." And making an obeisance, he went with haste to the palace and told the king of his friend's arrival. The king came to see him, and after offering all due civility, he put a question to him. The master, to make the matter clear, said, at sight of Brahmadatta thus enthroned in royal state, he said, "O king, the friend for whom thou art compassionate, Samkicca, lo, is here, of saints the chief in fame is he. Set out in haste and tarry not this holy sage to see." So quickly mounting on the car prepared at his behest, the king, begirt with courtier friends, set forth upon his quest. The emblems 5 of royal pomp straight doffed the Kasi lord, umbrella, turban, yak-tail fan, with shoes and eke his sword. Then stepping from his car the king, stripped of his bright array, to Vyapassa park, where sat Samkicca, took his way. The king drew nigh, and greeting him with words of courtly phrase, recalled the converse they had held together in old days. And as he sat beside him, when occasion fit arose, a question as to sinful deeds he hastened to propose. "Samkicca, lord of saintly band, great sage, whom here I see, sitting in Vyapassa park, I fain would question thee. How fare transgressors after death? Born to what state are they? I too have erred from righteousness. Thy answer quick, I pray." The master, to make the matter clear, said, Samkicca thus addressed the king who ruled o'er Kasi land, sitting in Vyapassa glades, "Mark, sire, and understand, shouldst thou point out the road to one gone hopelessly astray, and he should follow thy advice, no thorns beset his way. But he that walks in evil ways, shouldst thou direct aright, and he should follow thy advice, escapes from woeful plight." Thus did he admonish the king, and moreover taught him the faith, saying, Right is like the high road, wrong is but a by-road. Right to heaven I wins its way, wrong to hell leads men astray. Men that transgress the law, O sire, and live unrighteously, what fate they suffer after death in hell. Now hear from me. Sanjiva, Kalasuta and Roruva, great and small, Sanghata, great Avicii are names that may well appall. With Tapana and Patapana, 8 major hells in all. Escape from hence is hopeless, and of asadas they tell, twice 8 times more in number, a kind of minor hell. Dread flames here torture sinful men. All cruel deeds abound. Horror, amazement, anguish, woe and terror reign around. For square with fourfold doors is each in due proportion spaced. With dome of iron 'twas o'erarched, by iron wall embraced. Its base of iron wrought is such no raging flame may melt, though e'en 100 leagues around its mighty power is felt. All that have outrage done to saints or injured holy men, fall headlong into hell's abyss, no more to rise again. In evil plight their mangled frames, piecemeal like fish on toast, for their misdeeds through countless years in hell are doomed to roast. Their limbs consumed with burning heat, to torture dread a prey, though eager to escape from hell they never find a way. Seeking an outlet to and fro to east or west they fly, or baffled hurry north or south, a hopeless quest to ply, for gods are there to bar the way whichever door they try. Poor souls! For many thousand years they dwell in hell's domain. With arms outstretched they sore lament their overwhelming pain. Like deadly poison snake whose wrath 'twere fatal to arouse, shunned to attack the saints that live bound by ascetic vows. Arjuna, lord of Kakakas, great archer who annoyed Gautama, was despite his bulk and 1,000 arms destroyed. So Dandaki defiling Kisavaka, sinless one, like palm tree from the roots cut down, was utterly undone. Meja for famed Methanga's sake fell from its place of pride. The land became a wilderness and king and people died. Assailing black Dipayana the men of Vishnu race, with Andhakas sought Yama's realm, each slain by others' mace. Cursed by a sage, Sekka who once could tread the air, they say, was lost and swallowed by the earth on his appointed day. The self-willed fool can never gain the approval of the wise, but guileless souls, equipped with truth, are slow to utter lies. Whoso would lie in wait to catch some wise and holy man, hurled down to hell will quickly learn to rue his wicked plan. But who with treacherous cruelty shall aged saints assail, shall like a dying palm tree stump, childless and heirless, fail. Whoso some mighty sage, a priest of life austere, shall slay, in Kalasuta hell shall suffer torture many a day. And if a wicked mega king his realm should overthrow, he shall when dead in Tapana like sufferings undergo. 100,000 years, as gods count years, he's doomed to dwell, clad in a robe of living flame, midst agonies of hell. Bright jets of fire on every side shoot from his tortured frame. His very limbs, hair, nails and all, serve but to feed the flame. And as his body burns apace, racked through and through with pain, like a goad-stricken elephant, poor wretch, he roars amain. Whoso from greed or hatred shall, vile creature, slay his sire, in Kalasuta hell long time shall agonize in fire. In iron cauldron boiled till he shall peel, the parricide is pierced with shafts of steel. Then blinded and on filth condemned to feed, he's plunged in brine to expiate his deed. Then goblins twixt his jaws, lest they should close, hot iron ball or plowshare interpose. These fixed with cords his mouth so firmly prop, they into it a stream of filth can drop. Vultures, both black and brown, and ravens too, and birds with iron beaks, a motley crew, rending his tongue to many a fragment small, devour the quivering morsel, blood and all. The goblins flitting to and fro, assail the wretch with many a blow, on his charred breast or broken limb. With cruel glee they buffet him. The joy is theirs, but woes abide, with all that in such hell reside. For earthly crime of parricide, the son that slays his mother straight to Yama's realm is sent, in retribution for his deed to reap due punishment. Their powerful demons seize upon the guilty matricide, and plow with iron shares his back in furrows deep and wide. The blood like molten copper from his wounds that flows they take, and give it to the guilty wretch, his burning thirst to slake. He stands plunged in a crimson lake as 'twere of clotted blood, breathing foul stench of carrion vile or evil-smelling mud. Enormous worms with iron mouths, piercing their victim's skin, devour his flesh right greedily and suck the blood within. In hell 100 fathoms deep, behold the victim sinks, while for 100 leagues around dead carcass like he stinks. By reason of the stench, O king, such is his sorry plight, though once possessed of vision keen he suffers loss of sight. Passed out from Kuradhara hell, grim prison house hard to flee, abortion mongers scape not thy dread stream, veterani. Silk cotton trees with thorns foot long of iron wrought, 'tis said, on either bank, veterani, o'erhang thy gloomy bed. All clothed in flame, one mass of fire, they stand against the sky, and all ablaze with brilliant light tower a full league on high. Here fixed upon sharp thorns red hot in hell appear to view. Unfaithful husbands, guilty wives, the whole adulterous crew. Beaten with stripes headlong they fall, revolving in their flight, and there with mangled limbs they lie awake the livelong night. At dawn they hide themselves in iron cauldron, known to fame, big as a mountain 'tis and full of water like to flame. So clad in folly like a robe these sinners night and day, for their ill deeds wrought long ago, fit retribution pay. Whoso as wife bought with his gold her husband shall despise, or shall regard his kith and kin with ever scornful eyes, her tongue, wrenched out with hook and line, shall suffer agonies. She sees her tongue drawn out all full of worms, nor may complain, silent perforce in Tapana enduring awful pain. Slayers of sheep and swine and cows, and followers of the chase, fishermen, robbers, cruel all, glozing as fair things base, assailed with swords and iron clubs, headlong, these men of blood, pursued with spears and arrows fall into a briny flood. The forger, harried night and day with club of iron forged, feeds only on the filthy mess by some poor rogue disgorged. Crows, ravens, vultures, jackals too, all armed with iron jaw, entomb the struggling wretch alive in their insatiate maw. Who shall with beast hunt beast to death, or bird with bird shall slay, o'erwhelmed with sin shall sink to hell, to rue the accursed day. Thus did the king describe all these hells, and now making an opening in the earth, he showed the king the angel worlds and said, through virtue stored on earth of old the good to heaven attain. Here Brahmas, Devas, Indra, lo, ripe fruit of virtue gain. This then I say, bear righteous sway throughout thy realm, my king, for justice done is merit won, nor e'er regret will bring. On hearing the religious discourse of the great being, the king thenceforth was comforted, and the Bodhisattva, after staying some time there, returned to his own place of abode. The master here ended his story and said, not now only, but of old also was he consoled by me, and he identified the birth. At that time Ajatasattu was the king, the followers of Buddha formed the company of the ascetic, and I myself was the sage Samkicca.